Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Salesforce Connect. And today we have Royce Hall on the call. It's great to have you.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Alan.
Absolutely. So why don't we start from the beginning? I know people in the Salesforce ecosystem have all sort of different paths. No one has a traditional path, but for you in particular, you come from being an arborist. So how did you transition from nature and trees into the Salesforce ecosystem? Walk me through that journey.
That is a long and twisty tale for sure. So even before that, I had gone to school to study Christian ministry and Christian theology, and I had wanted to get into that ministry. And while I was going through school, I had built a organic land care service with my father-in-law. So we were doing landscaping. And as the time of my education was wrapping up, that what I had pursued, like so many of us, what I had pursued in college and my education didn't end up panning out. And I got opportunity to go in the direction of arboriculture. So I joined up with a local tree care team and started building and managing the business over there. And as good as that was for me, like I got to do a lot in terms of building entrepreneurship, managing people. So I got to kind of expand my boundaries in a lot of ways there. I knew that it wasn't where I wanted to be ultimately. So I was in that place for maybe 7 years. And, I got experience with technology at an enterprise level kind of for the first time. We were using a product called Real Green, and I'm sure it's still out there. It's used by a lot of
Okay.
landscape companies, but I knew that I wanted to get out of that field of practice. It just wasn't my passion. And I had some friends who ran a local software development shop, and they were looking for somebody to help out with administrative work and business development. I'm like, I'm in, let's do it. And I made the transition, and this may sound odd to you, but I found it a very easy transition. Like, we weren't, using chainsaws and, chemicals and all these things. But at the end of the day, like, we're talking to people, and like, how do you help people? How do you have a good conversation? How do you discover what's really going on? And I was able to jump in quickly and help out with hiring, which again, that seems like really strange, like hiring tech people when I don't have a tech background. But again, at a certain level, you're working with people, and at a certain level, we're very similar, if not the same, across industries. So got into that and got into business development, and they were using Salesforce. I kind of became that accidental admin that happens to so many people. It's like, hey, we've got this. Can you administer that? I'm like, sure, I'll go figure it out. I'll push some buttons and make some mistakes. Let's do it. So I stepped into a situation where they're using Salesforce with an outreach layer on top. And that was my first intro to Salesforce. And after a while, the company was like, hey, well, maybe we want to offer Salesforce consulting. So I helped build that practice from a business development side of things. Then I eventually joined up with CRM Science, which is a well-known Salesforce consulting company out of Philadelphia. And today I'm with GoMeddo. I've been there for almost 3 months.
Nice.
And when I joined GoMeddo, man, it seemed like a very clear-cut use case to me, because what they do is they handle complex scheduling. So, when you and I need to have a talk, like, we get that Calendly link and we have a talk. But let's think about situations where you need to actually reserve
Yeah, a room or like an
facility.
asset.
Yeah, it can be equipment as well. So like, I have my AV equipment. Like, you get your fancy mic, there's my fancy mic. Like, if you have to do more than just reserve time with a person on the calendar, like I'm working with we do a lot of work with universities. So we've got to schedule event spaces, we got to book time, we got to ticket that, and then we have to book tables, we have to book AV equipment, projectors, all that inventory we can bring together in a seamless kind of end-to-end booking solution that's native to Salesforce. Having to go back to my arborist days, having booked work and clients and equipment manually, I'm talking like pencil and paper and tons of sticky notes. That was rough.
Yeah,
That was really
I
hard.
imagine.
So when I saw this, I'm like, "Oh, man, like, you could just, like, do all this digitally natively in Salesforce, and it's like a drag and drop experience." I'm like, "I'm in. This is good stuff right here." So that's, kind of a maybe not 60-second, maybe like a 180-second overview of, how I got started in Salesforce and where I am today.
No, I love it. I love the journey, and I think what's really good about you is that you combine this people centric approach, also having been in the consulting size, understanding pain points, objectives, how to have that consultative mindset, and now taking that more on the commercial side. I think when you do consultative approach to sales and try to figure out a solution for client and not just try to push something for the sake of pushing, I think that that probably helps you excel and really build long-term relationships with your clients for sure. So let me ask you a question. For me, that we know that solution. One things I like is that it's native. It's built 100% on the Salesforce platform. So where do you see opportunities of companies that choose to be native first, Salesforce first versus integrating with like external API calls, things like that?
Yeah, so when you run your business on Salesforce, you kind of have, it's the classic platform play, right? Like all your data is one place. That makes everything easier to work. So, booking that time through GoMeddo is easier. That data that you get from people, hey, maybe we're tracking, if we're in a nonprofit situation, we're doing these events, we're doing these galas, fundraising events. We get all this rich data from people who are coming and attending. Maybe they've attended 3 events this year. Well, it doesn't look like they've donated it all. Maybe we should do some marketing to them. Maybe one of our development team members should reach out to them. Like you get all this rich data that if it was in a fragmented system, maybe nobody feels like integrating it. Maybe somebody's just like, I don't see it. And it sits in that kind of separate database, if you will. It's not connected to your marketing. It's not connected to all your other data sources. And, that costs you like literal real money. Like there's opportunities that could be closed if the data was tighter together. So I think having everything into that one roof makes the data sharing easier, makes your workflows more seamless, and allows you to do more. Now, as a Salesforce solution, we also have like kind of a standalone version where it's like an OEM package where you can use us even if you don't have a sales footprint. But that goes right back to like, okay, now we got to talk about integrating. Like, how do I integrate this to everything else? And, that's a bigger task and it takes a lot of work to set up those integrations and to work with those APIs, which comes with a cost too, upfront cost and also maintenance cost, right? Because something changes on GoMeddo, something changes on whatever you're connecting it to. Now we've got to change our integration. Whereas if we were all on the same platform in the same Salesforce org natively, it's much easier.
Yeah.
Salesforce does that maintenance for you.
Yeah, and I like the thing you mentioned about having all that data inside of Salesforce. Thing it will be even more important as AI
Yeah.
adoption gets more prolific in the environment. How do you think like having centralized resources and scheduling help some of the growing pains in some of these more complex organizations? And can you give maybe a few examples? You mentioned universities, but what are some other examples of organizations that struggle with this and a solution like GoMedo could really help them?
Yeah, so we see things like you're using kind of a minimal solution like a Calendly, like hey, it's good. I got a Calendly link. Like everybody has a Calendly link, but that's not like the enterprise wide. We're scheduling everybody through that, and we're scheduling all of our resources as well. It really falls apart. So like we do a lot with universities because there's a lot of needs there. We're managing multiple campuses, we're managing thousands of people, we're managing rooms, we're managing events, our intramural soccer, we're
Yeah,
managing social events, we're
the
managing
dodgeballs.
housing. Yeah, so like we do a lot there. Travel, transportation, hospitality. We do a lot of work in that space as well. So think of like I'm going to go to a resort, and at this resort, there's all sorts of again events that we can do. Like maybe I want to get a massage. Okay, like how do I I book a time with that masseuse? How do I find a masseuse that offers the type of massage that I want? Right. So then you get into that kind of tracking of specialties. And I think of it as filters, like all these filters that you have to go through to find the right person for the calendar event. That's what we're really managing. And I think of it like I went online for my dentist. It's like, okay, do you need a dental appointment? Here's the contact us email. I'm like, okay, like my tooth is hurting. I'm going to send in this email and maybe it's 4 o'clock. They're not going to see it till, 11 o'clock tomorrow. They're going to call me back. Maybe I'm in a meeting and it's going to be 24, 48 hours before I get time with my dentist for my
Yeah.
bad need. Or same thing, like if I call in and leave a message, we'll call you back. Like, and who's listening to voicemails these days? Like, yeah, that's a long cycle versus being able to shorten that cycle and say, okay, what is your issue? Okay, like I think I broke a tooth. Okay, click on that and what location? Okay, well, here's the specialist at this location that can handle that. And here's the times that are available. What time do you want to come in? Oh, they have a time at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Book that. And if you wanted to service a payment link, maybe not for dental, but for like your tissue massage or whatever, you can service that payment link so that the booking and payment is seamless. And then by the way, you're not getting ghosted on appointments because they're already prepaid, right? So we make that booking a lot faster, a lot more seamless. I was This is not a kind of a core client for us, but like I was working with a law office the other day and they're getting crushed by clients and leads coming in needing legal advice right now. And they're like, we can't keep up with it. And sometimes people put appointments on our schedule and they don't show up and we don't get paid for them. Can we surface a booking link that has a payment so that they're in and we know our attorneys who have more leads than they can handle, we know that their time's not being wasted by missed opportunities. So it's that sort of thing. We see that in sports as well. So doing a lot with sports and your kind of healthcare, much like your tissue massage, whether it's uh, maybe like rehab or something like that. When you're trying to book time with a specialist, how do you do that? And we have the answer for that.
Yeah. I like that, having smarter workflows and yeah, making sure things are not wasted or inefficient. How do you see the next frontier with things like agent force and AI agents? How do you envision customers interacting with like booking and scheduling resources or assets, stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, we're already in the future. We were actually one of the first people to have AI agents in our product. So right when Agent Force came out, we built around that. So today already, like if you're an administrator in your Salesforce org, you can use our Agent Force agent to have a conversation and say, hey, I'm looking for this, that, or the other, and I'm looking for it on this date. Or you can query it to say, can you give me availabilities for this, that, and the other? And it'll run down that query for you and service it and book it for you if you want. And you can put that externally as well so that your clients can have that agent conversation and book that way. And I think as far as kind of going beyond that, what it can look like even further, we're actually talking to some of our partners who have voice agents. So, we can connect that to a voice AI agent, and the voice agent can connect to our agent and look into the scheduling and as somebody's having a conversation with them on the phone, say, I want to book a time for whatever. And those two systems will collaborate and service time on the phone for somebody. So I think that's really cool where, you're not even having a web experience at that point, right? You're just having a voice experience. You're just talking to kind of the computer directly and getting your time worked out. I think there's flaws in that. I've personally done that as a user for one of my appliances. They have a voice only call center and their documentation was wrong. Something I needed one screw. That was it. That was holding me back was one screw, and they directed me to the wrong product. And I knew it because I had already bought it and it was wrong. But the AI agent didn't know that was wrong, and there was no way to tell it was wrong. So that's my pushback is, kind of where we started of like, it's still a human enterprise. Don't push the human out altogether. Like there needs to be a recourse to speak with humans because when it's just like you can only speak to a robot and the robot's wrong, okay, well, now I'm just at a dead end. This is like the worst support call I've ever had, right? Even though it's AI enabled and everything, I'm like, this is the worst support ever.
And to take that one step further, how do you think like predictive operations will shift not just like AI to automate and make those interactions more efficient, but for organizations to have forecasting, like you were saying,
Mhm.
no shows at the law firm or when there's demand surges at a university and everyone's booking rooms for event. Like how can companies use predictive operations to be even more efficient with their resources?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think it goes back to data and to the platform. So, when you have the rich data of years of experience, that AI can say, "Hey, look, we always get crushed in June," and like it can even show you things like, "Okay, we all know that like we always get crushed in August because that's when people go back to school." Like, yeah, like I don't need AI to tell me that. But hey, did you actually know that, yeah, you can see in the data in the analytics, there's a bump in, I don't know, January or whatever. Like, oh, that's interesting. Like we haven't thought too much about that. Maybe we should look at that because our resources are actually 100% taxed in January. Like, oh, well, like that makes me think. So like, it can service that data, it can provide that analysis for you and say like here's things that you should consider, which I think is very helpful. And again, I think it goes back to the platform play. Like that's one of the nice things about working with a global enterprise like Salesforce is they are going to develop those tools for you, right? And you don't have to go and find it for yourself. You don't have to go build it. Like it's there. And as you're an enterprise that's looking for robust service and AI that's going to work round the clock, zero downtime experiences, Salesforce is going to provide that for you. And having all of your data from all of your different data streams connected in your Salesforce instance is going to unlock those capabilities for you.
Got it. So let me ask you something. I mean, you've been in different roles in the ecosystem. Ecosystem has grown a lot over the last 20, almost 25 years. So if someone would be looking to make a career pivot or starting their career into Salesforce, what advice would you give someone fresh, like coming into this ecosystem?
I think my advice is always, build your network, build the people to people connections. I've been in situations like when I was in school, when I was in my undergrad and master's degree, like I was very focused on my studies, and it took me a while to realize, like, okay, I make great grades and all this stuff, but like that's not very transparent. And the people that actually have jobs are people, right? So like I need to be investing more time in actually connecting with people because they can get me into the ecosystem. And I think a lot of times when we look at, jobs on LinkedIn or job boards or whatever, it's like, okay, there's 400 people, 1,000 people that have applied for this. How do I stand out? That's really hard to do. Even
Yeah,
if you have like 20 different certifications, even that could be like, well, okay, you have 20 certifications in 2 years. Like, it doesn't sound like you actually did anything, right? So, like, even that plays against you. But if somebody knows you and has context with you, like, you can get much farther in the hiring cycle. Cause, like, oh, yeah, like you had a conversation. Like, I remember Joe and like, sure, let's talk to him. Like, let's put him at, maybe it's not the round of one, but like, the round of 1 of 10, like, you can get farther by using those interpersonal skills. I think also, like, realize it's not just the technical skills that people are looking for. So if you've never been a lead admin or something like that, well, what other stories can you tell? Can you tell about being a people manager? Can you tell about being a project manager in landscaping like like I was? Like, just because you don't have that admin cert doesn't mean you don't have transferable skills. So I think as you're starting out, you have to think about, okay, what are the stories that I can tell about my transferable skills? and how do I network with the right people and make an impression so that I get a chance at a job because it's very competitive out there. Like you
Yeah.
said, the ecosystem is growing. And if you look at like the 10K reports, I love 10K advisors. They're actually from Louisville. That's where I am. So great folks over there. If you look at their reports, like there's so many small consultancies popping up, so many, individual consultants, so many new admins. Like it's a very crowded, robust ecosystem, so you have to figure out how to stand out. And for me, that was utilizing those, interpersonal skills, both to network and to tell the story about my value apart from certifications too.
Yeah, no, I love that. And here, last question on my end to wrap things up. What excites you the most about the future of the Salesforce ecosystem? What keeps you up at night? What are you looking forward for the next 3 to 5 years?
There's a lot of ideas back and forth, like some positive, some negative about like agentic AI. But the thing that really stuck out to me, I went to Dreamforce this year, and Mark Benioff gave the keynote speech, and something he said stuck with me. He said, "We're already using agentic AI, we're already using ChatGPT and things like that in our personal consumer lives. How do we get that in our business lives?" And that really stuck with me. Like, yeah, like before, there's any, you know, Einstein Copilot that you can, deploy in Salesforce. Like I was tooling around on ChatGPT trying to figure out how that works. And like I was doing things with my friends. And then it's like, oh yeah, we don't have that at work. So, I think there's a lot of negativity around like, oh, is it going to take our jobs? It's not doing everything I wish it could do. But hey, like we expect that now. Like we expect that agentic AI, we expect to deploy it in our business, and I think we're still expanding on what that could look like. I hear new use cases every day, and there's all sorts of exciting things that are being done. So I think that's what excites me is like, okay, how do we roll that out further? And again, that's part of the benefit of being on the Salesforce platform is Salesforce is doing that for you. They're constantly coming out with new workflows for their AI, for their agents that you can download and deploy. So they're doing a lot of that heavy lifting for you. So that's exciting to be a part of, I think.
Awesome. Awesome. No, I definitely echo with that. Yeah, I think people are used to using AI in their day to day, right? Like OpenAI, ChatGPT. I mean, everyone's now talking about mobile and how that's having like agents. So everyone's playing with it, and the enterprise, I think it's more careful to adopt it. So definitely, I think we're an exciting time to see how companies and enterprises will start adopting AI in their day to day, exciting times ahead. Royce, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking time to chat. If people would like to learn more about you, get in touch with you, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, I'm all over LinkedIn, so find me on LinkedIn. It's just Royce Hall. I'm actually a lot harder to Google. There's a building on the UCLA's campus called Royce Hall, so like
Well,
I don't even rank page one on Google for my own name, which I think is sad. But you can find you can find me on Google, or you can email me r.hall@GoMeddo.com, and Meadow is Meddo. And I'll have to tell you the story about that name some other time. But r.hall@gomeddo.com, you can get me there too.
awesome. Great conversation, Royce. Great chatting. Have a good
Thanks for
one.
having me, Alan.